Hi, this is Jason with SOLOSHOT, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to use your SOLOSHOT2 base and SOLOSHOT2 camera controller to do motion time-lapse photography. Now, to get started, of course, you'll need a SOLOSHOT2 base updated with the latest firmware. You'll need a pretty sturdy tripod. You'll need a USB 2.0 memory stick. The same one that you use to upgrade your firmware will work just fine. You'll need a SOLOSHOT2 camera controller loaded with DSLR firmware. And you'll also need the 2.5mm cable that comes with your SOLOSHOT2 camera controller kit. Now, some DSLR cameras will actually need another cable that goes from the 2.5mm jack to that camera's plug. See the SOLOSHOT.com website for details on that. And lastly, you'll need a DSLR camera that is compatible with the SOLOSHOT2 camera controller. Now, some cameras, like the GoPro Heroes, they have their own time-lapse features built in. So if you want to do motion time-lapse, then you don't need the SOLOSHOT2 camera controller because the camera is going to take its own pictures. So the SOLOSHOT2 will provide the motion, the GoPro will take care of its own time-lapse. Now, in order to turn your SOLOSHOT2 base into a motion time-lapse machine, you'll first need to create a data file that contains all of the motion time-lapse parameters. That data file then gets copied to a USB 2.0 memory stick, and that's how the data gets loaded onto your SOLOSHOT2 base. You can get to the motion time-lapse calculator from the SOLOSHOT website. Click the Custom Pan Tilt button and a row of data will appear. Playback pan speed is the rate at which your camera will appear to pan in the final video. 80 to 120 degrees per minute is typical. In this example, we are going to pan 80 degrees per minute to the right. Negative numbers indicate panning to the right, while positive numbers indicate panning to the left. Playback tilt speed is the rate at which your camera will appear to tilt in the final video. In this example, we are going to leave this set at 0, but if you want to use tilt, positive numbers indicate tilt up, and negative numbers indicate tilt down. Duration is how long you want to spend taking pictures. In this example, we're going to take pictures for an hour. Interval time is the time in seconds between pictures. Something between 2 and 10 seconds is typical for daytime. In general, the slower the activity, the longer the interval. Since we're going to be taking pictures of clouds at sunset, 8 seconds should be good. Shutter speed is the maximum shutter speed in seconds you plan to use during your time-lapse. Even though the shutter speed is set on your camera, your SOLOSHOT needs to know how long to hold your camera still before it moves to the next position. For example, if you are shooting at night and need a 5-second exposure, you will enter a 5 here, and this would ensure that your SOLOSHOT holds your camera steady during the exposure. But in this example, we'll just hold it steady for a second. If using a GoPro Hero, you can't synchronize the camera movement with the shutter, so you must zero out the shutter speed. This will disable the Move Shoot Move feature and give you continuous movement. Final clip length is how long your time-lapse video will last, assuming you play it back at 30 frames per second. Pan rate and tilt rate indicate the degrees per hour that the camera will move in real time. As you fill in your time-lapse data, you can see the script generated here in the yellow box. The $sign indicates the start of a new data entry. The first number is the real-time pan rate in degrees per hour. The second number is the real-time tilt rate in degrees per hour. The third number is the real-time duration in seconds. The fourth number is the interval in seconds. And the fifth number is the maximum shutter speed in seconds. All of these numbers are separated by commas. So if you understand the format of the script, you can do this without using the online time-lapse calculator. Your time-lapse can have more than one stage. For instance, if you wanted to change the tempo halfway through your time-lapse, you could add another line by pressing the Custom Pan Tilt button. And while using the same pan tilt speed, shorten the interval to 2 seconds. This will cause the action to slow down for the second half of the time-lapse. You can see here that this second stage generates a lot more frames than the first stage, so we will only take pictures for 15 minutes during the second stage. That gives us 15 seconds for each stage for a total clip duration of 30 seconds. The total real-time duration of the shoot will last 1 hour and 15 minutes. We will start the time-lapse 1 hour prior to sunset, so that the tempo change occurs right at sunset. You can generate the time.txt file by pressing the Save Time.txt button here. The file will save to your Downloads folder, and from there you simply copy it to a USB 2.0 memory stick. It's very important that you do not rename the file and that the file contains no text other than that which is in this yellow box. Now, some older internet browsers might not support the file save function. If you have one of these, you can download a sample time.txt file from the time-lapse help page and copy and paste this text into the sample file. So once we get our data file loaded onto the USB stick, we can do a quick check before we go out to do our time-lapse to make sure everything worked properly. To do the quick check, just simply turn your base on and you'll see the default LEDs come up. Now, when you insert your USB stick into the base, you'll see the LEDs flash green 3 times and then some of them will turn red. This means the data file was successfully loaded. So at this point, we can remove the USB memory stick and turn the base off. Okay, here we are at the site. Everything is set up, except I'm not going to plug my 2.5mm cable in just yet. First thing I'm going to do is turn on the base. The next thing I'm going to do is insert my USB memory stick. Once the LEDs on the back of the base flash green 3 times, I can remove the USB memory stick. Now, if you need help leveling your tripod, you can use the red LEDs on the back of the base. The first thing you'll need to do is use the arrow keys on the back of the base to rotate the base until the camera is pointed in the same direction as one of the tripod legs. Next thing you do is look at LEDs 2 and 5. If LED 2 is red, then the base needs to lean forward. If LED 5 is red, then the base needs to lean back. So in our case, LED 2 is red, so I'm going to shorten the front leg and lean the base forward. The next thing we need to do is look at the LEDs on the right and the left. If LEDs 1 and 4 are red, then we need to lean the base to the right. If LEDs 3 and 6 are red, then we need to lean the base to the left. Now in our case, LEDs 1 and 4 are red. So I'm going to shorten this leg and lean the base to the right. Now, you can see in doing so, the base tilted back a little bit. So I'm going to need to shorten the front leg and lean the base more towards the front. Now, when the base is level to within a ½ degree, all of the red LEDs will be off and all of the LEDs will be flashing green very dimly. Now at this point, we can turn on our camera, adjust our settings, and aim the camera at the starting position. Use a wide zoom. 18 to 24mm focal lengths work the best. If you want to use your camera's autofocus to set your initial focus, that's fine. Just don't forget to switch autofocus off before you start your time-lapse. Turn off your camera's image stabilization feature. Make sure that your camera is set up to only take 1 picture per shutter release. Turn off the image review feature. Use manual exposure settings and do not adjust them during the time-lapse. Use a slow shutter speed, something in the 1/4 second range. This might require a neutral density filter to avoid overexposure. Now once you've got everything set, go ahead and turn your camera off and plug in your 2.5mm cable. Now turn your camera back on, and before you start your time lapse, if you don't need your LCD, I suggest you turn it off at this time. Now to start your time lapse, all you'll need to do is press the plus button on the back of your base. LED 1 will flash green, and then once LED 2 starts flashing green, then the time lapse has started. And every time LED 3 flashes red, it takes a picture. And when it's finished, LED 6 will turn red, and then you know the time lapse is done.